Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming. To start, this is our regular traffic committee meeting. So we're going to run it like a regular meeting. In this case, we only have one item on the agenda. So I am assuming all of you are here for the Citrus and Cameron item. Anyone not here for a different item? Because we do have that as well. Someone could bring up different items after at the end. First, we're going to, just to give you a summary of what we're going to do, is we're going to start with a summary of the March 2023 community meeting comments, and then we'll show you the count data that was collected and the outcome of signal warrants and what this means for the intersection. And then we will hear from you guys who's filled out the speaker cards. If anyone still needs a speaker card, they're over here at the table. And then we'll have, after we hear all the information from the residents, we'll have a discussion on the traffic committee. Like I said, I see you already did the speaker card, and also to be fair, so everyone has their time, we have a 3-minute time limit for each speaker. And then we are asking also, we created these comment cards or papers. So we're going to pass these out, and if each one of you would like to fill one out, basically it says, you know, in favor of signal installation, against the signal, and then your comments. And these will all be attached to the staff report that goes to City Council. At this point, we just want to keep in mind that we are an advisory committee. So we provide to the council our professional judgment, engineering judgment, and our opinion based on facts that we have found and engineering experience and standards. City council makes the final decision. So whatever happens here, you will have another opportunity at City Council to voice your concerns. They will also have, City Council will have any emails or these cards that you filled out attached to the staff report. So your voices will be heard, and they will know how each of you feel. We also have gotten quite a few emails, and that we are logging those so that we can attach those as well, so everyone has an equal voice. Some were for, some against, you know, so this way all of your opinions can be heard by council. I want to begin by just introducing the panel up here. First we have Ahmad Ansari. He's professional engineer and is the city engineer at West Covina. Myself, I'm a professional transportation planner and roadway safety practitioner. I represent the traffic division. And we have the police department, we have Corporal Adam Seshner, and then Sergeant Steve Spagan. I butchered their name. And in the back, we have Officer Michael Tuano. So they're also here. And then we also have Bauman Janka, who is our senior traffic engineer, who will help with some of the questions, comments about a signal. And Bauman, did you want to say anything else? Okay, not at this time. Okay, and then Paulina Morales, the interim city manager, is here as well in the back. And then we also have some associate engineers, Brian Cervante, Allison Richter, Damian Angulo, and Jasmine Bales, who are assisting us with passing out the items and are learning the ropes, so to speak, on how the traffic committee works. So at this time,
I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order at 3:09.
Oh yeah, go pass those out. She's good.
Go ahead, Jenna.
They're going to pass the comment cards out, so if you all got a PowerPoint presentation, you can go over the agenda, and then these comment cards. If at the end, once you fill them out, just if you can leave them at the desk, we'd appreciate it.
Perfect. So I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order at 3:09. So going over the agenda, the item 2, traffic committee items taken to the previous traffic committee meetings, and all the items were recommended, all items recommended were unanimously approved by the traffic committee. and these recommendations will be presented to City Council for final approval and installation. Those items were the traffic review of Sunkist Avenue and Yarnell Avenue, the traffic review of California Avenue and Vine Avenue, and lastly, the traffic review of Tonopah Avenue and Delvale Street. Now we'll move on to item 3, which is the new traffic committee items, and our only item for today is the engineering review of Citrus Street and Cameron Avenue. Perfect. So to begin, the purpose of this report is threefold: to present the survey responses from residents present at the March 2023 community meeting, to look at ways to improve safety at the intersection of Citrus Street and Cameron Avenue, in particular outlining signal warrants at the intersection, and to hear the opinions of residents present on potential safety measures at the intersection. And improvements along the street corridors of Cameron Avenue and Citrus Street will be considered at a later date. And after the traffic committee hears from the community and reviews the data, recommendations will be presented to the West Covina City Council, who will make the final decision on the improvements at the intersection. So now going into the history of traffic safety improvements at Citrus Street and Cameron Avenue. In early 2019, the city received requests to review the traffic operations at the stop-controlled intersection of Citrus Street and Cameron Avenue. As a result, city staff, along with the former traffic consultant, held 2 public meetings to present the findings of the analysis at a traffic committee meeting on June 11, 2019, and at a community workshop on August 13, 2019. At both meetings, city staff discussed various options, which include the installation of a traffic signal to improve the intersection. A traffic signal warrant report was completed by Wilde & Associates, a traffic consultant for the city, and it was found that the intersection met the 3 volume warrants for signalization per the CAM UTCD, or the California Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, and its guidelines. At the community meetings, many of the attending residents opposed the installation of a traffic signal and instead requested various other traffic calming and traffic safety improvements. At the request of City Council, a second comprehensive review was conducted for the intersection in response to community feedback. As part of this second review in 2020, the current contract city engineer conducted and collected additional vehicular and pedestrian data, which included a peak hour turning movement count, collection of ADT, a level of service analysis, and a review of the collision history for the intersection of Citrus Street and Cameron Avenue. The information collected indicated that the intersection met volume warrants per the CAM UTCD for a signal. During this time, California was experiencing the shutdown of schools and operations due to the pandemic, and then in March of 2020, a virtual community meeting was conducted that presented the new data as well as solicited community feedback for improvement measures. In August 2020, the information was presented to council, and council put consideration of a traffic signal on hold and approved the following traffic enhancements at the intersection of Citrus Street and Cameron Avenue, and the Cameron Avenue corridor between Barranca Street and Hollenbeck Avenue. The first was the installation of 3 speed radar feedback signs, 1 in the eastbound direction on Cameron Avenue between Hollenbeck Street and Citrus Street, 1 in the westbound direction on Cameron Avenue between Citrus Street and Barranca Street, and 1 in the northbound direction on Citrus Street north of Cortez Street. 2, the replacement of the existing faded stop-ahead warning signs with new stop-ahead signs approaching the stop-controlled intersection of Citrus Street and Cameron Avenue. 3, installation of stop-ahead pavement legends in each lane for all directions next to the stop-ahead signs approaching Citrus Street and Cameron Avenue. 4, replacement of existing stop signs at Citrus Street and Cameron Avenue with oversized stop signs with solar-powered LED blinking lights. 5, installation of always stop plaques underneath the new stop signs. 6, painting the existing crosswalk at the intersection of Citrus Street and Cameron Avenue with white ladder striping and high visibility paint. 7, the installation of white side stripes for traffic calming on both sides of the street on Cameron Avenue between Hollenbeck Street to Barranca Street. This serves to narrow the roadway widths and has been shown to reduce travel speeds. And lastly, installation of reduced speed limit ahead signage for northbound traffic on Citrus Street south of Cortez Street. And those can be seen here in the exhibit. So this can be seen here in the exhibit of what was recommended and installed at that time. So then moving on to the existing conditions. For Cameron Avenue is an east-west street that is considered a minor arterial road based on the Caltrans California Road Systems map. Cameron Avenue has a posted speed limit of 45 miles per hour on both sides of the intersection and is approximately 60 feet wide with 2 lanes in each direction with a solid yellow center line and raised pavement markers. Parking is allowed along Cameron Avenue on both sides except where red curb is painted. For Citrus Street is a north-south street that is considered a minor arterial road based on the California Road Systems map by Caltrans, and Citrus Street has a posted speed limit of 40 miles per hour on both sides of the intersection. Citrus Street is approximately 60 feet wide and has 2 lanes in each direction with a solid yellow center line with raised pavement markers, and parking is permitted on both sides of Citrus Street except areas marked with red curb. Next will be for South Hills High School. South Hills High School is located on the north side of Cameron Avenue to the east of Citrus Street, and South Hills High School serves about 1,651 students in grades 9 through 12, and the school grounds are about 1,350 feet away from the intersection. Let's see. So the data collection and community meetings. So at the beginning of 2023, at the request of the city, the traffic division was asked to bring back the discussion of installation of a traffic signal at the intersection of Citrus Street and Cameron Avenue. By 2023, streets were back to normal with schools all back in session and the I-10 freeway finished construction, so cut-through traffic due to freeway has normalized. In response to the request and on behalf of the city, engineering staff collected new traffic data in January of 2023, which included an analysis of existing roadway conditions, collection of average daily traffic or ADT counts on a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, a 24-hour speed survey on the same weekdays and a Saturday, a peak turning movement count at the intersection on a weekday, a pedestrian count at Citrus Street and Cameron Avenue on a weekday, and a review of approximately 3 years of available collision data. Once all the data was collected, a community meeting was held on Wednesday, March 29, 2023 at Cortez Senior Center. So on Wednesday, March 29, 2023, a community meeting was held at 6 p.m. at the Cortez Park Senior Center for community members to discuss their concerns and provide input on potential improvements for the intersection at Cameron Avenue and Citrus Street, and the street segment of Cameron Avenue between Azusa Avenue and Barranca Avenue. The purpose of the meeting was to provide background information regarding this area of West Covina, as well as address any resident concerns and public comments about the intersection and street segments. During the community meeting, Transtech presented the history of the intersection, previous improvements, and the results from the January 2023 traffic data collection effort. The meeting was attended by 27 West Covina residents, and 43 notices were mailed out to houses within a 500-foot radius of the Citrus Street and Cameron Avenue intersection. In addition to emails were sent to residents that previously wanted to be notified on this matter. As well, at the February 2023 Traffic Committee meeting, they were notified as well during that meeting. During the community meeting, residents were shown existing traffic conditions at the intersection of Citrus Street and Cameron Avenue, as well as the Cameron Avenue corridor between Azusa Avenue and Barranca Avenue. Based on the feedback the city has received from residents, the main concerns were identified based on studies conducted by the Traffic Engineering Division and community feedback from prior public meetings. From this feedback, the effectiveness of the changes and improvements made along Cameron Avenue were discussed. Following the presentation of information study findings from 2019 and 2023, as well as the discussion of recent improvements, the residents who attended the meeting were given the opportunity to provide feedback to the city by filling out a survey, pinpointing problem areas on a map, and discussing concerns with city employees at the meeting. All meeting participants were encouraged to fill out the survey given out at one of the table stations at the meeting. A total of 22 surveys were filled out and submitted to the city for review at this meeting. Most concerns included speeding along Cameron Avenue and vehicles not obeying the stop control at the intersection of Cameron Avenue and Citrus Street. When asked to rank the residents' safety concerns along Cameron Avenue, more than half of those responding listed speeding as their number one concern. The second highest concern along Cameron Avenue was pedestrian safety at the intersection with Citrus Street. Residents were also asked to rank improvements added to the segment along Cameron Avenue, and most residents were satisfied with the recent signal installed at the intersection of Barranca Avenue and Cameron Avenue. So go to the next slide. Yeah. So that's the direct feedback from that meeting. So then, moving on, residents were also asked to place sticky notes with concerns along the Cameron Avenue and Citrus Street corridors, as well as the Cameron Avenue and Citrus Street intersection. There were 17 comments posted on the aerial maps, and the posted comments were: 1, left turn signal on Hollenbeck and Cameron, fixed signal timing. 2, refresh the striping. 3, biking/ped crossing ahead sign. 4, more stop warning signs. 5, Foothill Transit buses line of sight instead of buses the issue. 6, a signal would negatively affect entry in and out of my driveway. Prefer speed humps, no traffic signal needed, speeding concerns. 7, illuminate crosswalk, crosswalk warning signs. 8, speeding while students are running within white striping. 9, light signals at Cameron/Citrus, speed humps on streets along Cameron from Barranca to Citrus. 10, speeding on Cameron is out of control. Speed limit of 45 miles per hour is too fast. Some hot rod and speeders reach 60, 70 miles per hour. I live at Corner House, Magnolia and Cameron. 11, speeding motor noise. 12, traffic signal to help monitor the crosswalk. Dangerous to cross now for pedestrians. Students from South Hills High School and West Covina High School track team running at more traffic on Cameron since freeway construction has not decreased, so having a signal would at least calm the traffic enough that you can get out of the streets. Speeding on Cameron has not improved, needs more police monitoring at night. A lot of it happens at night. 13, no traffic signal. More traffic calming measures on Cameron to reduce speed. 14, speed limit needs to be reduced. Adding a traffic signal at Cameron and Citrus will increase speeds and cause fatalities. 15, corner barriers, enhanced signage, motorcycle registration. 16, first driveway from North Citrus to East Cameron. If traffic light installed, I will be, quote unquote, I will be killed by someone on green light turning right. 17, concern of high speed between Citrus and Barranca, high speed daily, needs more traffic calming. So now going through, this is the actual direct ADT data. So on the first day that data was collected on Thursday, January 19th of this year, on East Cameron Avenue between South Coral Tree Drive and South Montezuma Way, there were 1,176 vehicles, or 11,176 vehicles. For East Cameron Avenue, east of South Citrus Street, there was 10,913 vehicles per day. For South Citrus Street, north of East Cameron Avenue, there was 9,883 vehicles per day. And for South Citrus Street, south of East Cameron Avenue, there was 6,431 vehicles per day. For the next day, Friday, January 20th, for that first one, East Cameron Avenue between South Coral Tree Drive and South Montezuma Way, there was 11,437 vehicles per day. For East Cameron Avenue, east of South Citrus Street, there was 11,161 vehicles per day. South Citrus Street, north of East Cameron Avenue, there was 10,690 vehicles per day. And lastly, for South Citrus Street, south of East Cameron Avenue, there was 6,784 vehicles per day. And lastly, for our weekend count on Saturday, January 21st, for East Cameron Avenue between South Coral Tree Drive and South Montezuma Way, there was 8,711 vehicles per day. East Cameron Avenue, east of South Citrus Street, there was 7,652 vehicles per day. And South Citrus Street, north of East Cameron Avenue, there was 9,133 vehicles per day. And lastly, for South Citrus Street, south of East Cameron Avenue, there was 5,922 vehicles per day.
And then, I think everyone has the PowerPoint, so maybe we don't have to go through every single one. I think this was set out so you could see that normally on a weekday, what the ADT is. And these are all approaching the intersection, so it's on all four legs of the intersection. So we did Thursday, Friday, and then we wanted to see, because we know that traffic is less on a Saturday, if it would still meet warrants for signalization if we looked at Saturday as well. So then we included accounts on Saturday. So as you can see, which is expected, the counts, the ADT, which is the tube in the street, is less on a Saturday. But Brian will go over the next slide, which shows, kind of correlates how the speed works. Less volume, but higher speed. So normally when we do a traffic signal warrant, we look at a weekday. Typically, the typical weekdays that we look at is a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, because that's the time that the commuters are going. Friday, we know Friday is heavier because that's usually, people are, Friday, everybody's getting back home, they're trying to get home or whatever. So that usually is, the traffic is skewed a little bit, so it's higher. So that's why we normally do a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, but in this case, we wanted to see on the 3 different types of conditions how the street is operating. Okay, Brian? So the next slide is speed data, I guess I'll just, as you see, on Thursday, this is each leg of the intersection. So at Cameron, to the west of the intersection, the speeds, the 85th percentile, which is 85% of the people, are going 49 miles per hour or less. This is how they look at setting the speed limit as well. On the other side, the east side of Cameron, on east of Citrus, it was 45. Citrus north of Cameron, it was 39, and south of Cameron, it was 32. Now this is one day in time, because I know everyone can dispute it or whatever, but this is how it's a sample, and so this is what it is. On Friday, it's kind of similar traffic speeds. On Saturday, this is in January, slightly above on Cameron and Citrus. There's just like a 1 mile an hour speed lift difference, so it's slightly higher on Saturday. And then the next slide, for comparison purposes, we also collected counts in September. So we just looked at the volume and speeds to see how it would be on a Thursday, which is a typical weekday, and a Saturday. So if you look at the table, on Thursday in September, the counts are higher. It's 12,661. So from January to Thursday, the counts are getting higher, more traffic. On a Saturday, it's less than the weekday, but it is higher than in January, so it's 9212. And then if you notice, the 85th percentile is now jumped to 50, so they are speeding on Cameron. And then Brian, you can do the next one.
So as well, we did take peak hour counts. So as you can see, we took AM peak hour counts. Do you know what date this was?
Yeah, this was in January. It's all
Okay.
AM, afternoon, and PM. So we captured in the afternoon when kids were getting out of school. So you have teenage drivers and you have parents dropping off, picking up. So that's captured in the afternoon count at the intersection. And what we look at in the boxes, it's just the highest 1 hour in each count period. And this also, the pedestrian count at Cameron and Citrus, this was in January, the same day that we did the intersection count. This is the number of pedestrians crossing. Now, I know we had some counts from prior. We had very high numbers of pedestrians, so it's just a day and time. So this is how many pedestrians were crossing at this day. Next slide. Now, this is the collision data, and we have, as we put down in the bottom, this is what collisions are documented and on file with SWITRS, which is the statewide integrated traffic record system. It's where CHP and its members and of allied agencies, which is most of the cities around here, turn in to Sacramento all the police reports, and then it's documented in a file that we can pull and get those collisions. Now, we did have some residents emailed us and said there were some recent collisions, and I confirmed with the officers that there have been a couple, maybe you guys can discuss that, a collision that was recent at the intersection. We just have from November to January. So, Adam, do you want to, if you remember?
Yeah, so it was it was about 7 in the morning. We had a vehicle versus pedestrian traffic collision. Ended up being minor or non-injury? minor injuries. Essentially, a car was traveling westbound, making a southbound turn, making a left turn, and hit a kid going to school.
Okay, so,
Not a kid.
No.
An elderly woman on a walk.
Sorry, an elderly woman, not a child.
oh, an elderly woman,
Yeah.
okay. So we don't have that record on file, and there could have been some fender benders that were not reported that we do not have unless they have a police report. So what we have shown here is what is reported collisions. And then by the time the report goes to council, we'll also get with PD and look and see if there was any reported collisions that occurred in December or up until the time we take it, and that'll be included as well. And then also at that table, you'll see that the 3 collisions that occurred in 2023 were broadside. And mainly, people weren't waiting their turn. They were hitting the, hitting the other guy making a left or continuing through.
Yeah, we have several left turn violations there, and the primary reason is because in the morning, the sunlight, so.
Okay. All right, so then the next slide, the traffic signal warrant. So what happens is we take the data that we have gathered and we look and see, we fill out the California MUTCD, Section 4C, has 9 types of warrants that satisfy a traffic signal warrant or threshold. Now, the warrant in itself does not require the installation of a traffic control signal. A traffic control signal should not be installed unless an engineering study indicates that installing a traffic control signal will improve the overall safety and operation of the intersection. So there are 9 warrants. As we see, the typical ones we look at are the 8-hour vehicle volume, which means we take the highest 8 hours of a day, and they have thresholds that it must meet for each direction. Then there's the 4-hour vehicle volume warrant. So then that is the 4 highest hours of a given day. Does it meet the thresholds in the warrant? Then we have the peak hour. So at 1 hour, does it meet warrants? Normally we don't. The peak hour needs to have a little bit more meat to have a signal than just one peak hour, unless it's extreme, like a whole huge company gets out at one time and it really needs a signal to assign right away. So some of these are applicable and some are not. So the ones in the next slide will show you. But warrant 1, like I said, is, and warrant 1, 2, and 3 are the main ones we look at. Warrant 4 is pedestrian volume. It's usually if it's right next to a school where you have hundreds of children getting out at a certain time, and it's usually K through 8 children crossing, so you need the signal. If it's not safe or for them to cross a certain street without having a signal, then that is a warrant that is looked at. Warrant 5 is school crossing warrant. So 4 and 5 are kind of interchangeable. 4 could mean any pedestrian, 5 is the school children. 6 is coordinated signal system warrant, and it is to maintain proper platooning. So side street traffic cannot get out onto a major street. They don't have, because cars are continuously going, a signal would make a platooning of vehicles because they're all stopping and then they get out and they cross the, keep going. Number 7 is the crash experience warrant. Now this one is the number of collisions in a 12-month period. Right now we have 3 and potentially 4. It needs 5 or more in a 12-month period to satisfy the warrant. Warrant 8 is roadway network warrant. It's more concentrating on the traffic flow, and warrant 9 is the grade crossing, which is not applicable. So as defined by the signal warrants and the counts, what we did is we didn't just do a signal warrant for a Thursday. We did the Thursday, we did the Friday, and we did the Saturday to see if it met conditions on all 3 days, or did it only meet it during the weekday, because that makes a decision. Do you need it all the time? Because I've driven through the intersection. It is less traffic on a weekend. So we did look at that, and we put it into the signal warrant. And Table 13, as you see, it met warrants on a Thursday, Friday, and a Saturday for the volume warrants. So the 8-hour warrant, 4-hour, and the peak hour met the warrants. It did not meet it under pedestrian volume. You saw our count for that day. It was low. It could have been higher, but for that day, our survey time, it did not have the pedestrian volume to meet warrants. And the crash signal warrant 7, crash experience, it did not meet it because at this time, we only have the 3. So, and just to note that I know some are not in favor, whatever, but these are the same warrants that were met in 2019, the Wildan study, the 2020 study, and now 2023. So it's the same volume warrants. Our next slide is just types of different phasing for intersections. There's a lot of different phasing. There's a lot of different operation at signals. Bauman is here to go over some of this, hopefully put it more in a,
Perspective.
yes, it's very technical, so we try to, so we can all understand it. Towards the end, we have some more simpler diagrams that'll explain it. So, Bauman?
You want me to go through some of these?
Yes, can you go through some of them?
Okay. First of all, good evening, committee members and members of the audience, the residents. I'm going to try to address both groups since this is mostly for the benefit of you, the residents, I believe. I think Jana introduced me. My name is Bauman Janka, and I'm sorry for my voice being hoarse a little bit. I've been sick a little bit, so I'm just getting out of it. I'm a registered traffic engineer. I've been with Translink for the past 4 years, but just to let you know, I have been mostly working for public agencies. I have worked about 32 years for public agencies in California. Most recently, I was in city of Pasadena, one of your San Gabriel Valley cities, for about 19 years. So I'm very familiar with traffic issues. I'm very familiar with the stop signs, stop warrants, traffic signals, and the pros and cons of each one of these. The chart that you have in front of you right now, this is just different types of traffic signals operations. I won't go through too much details of these. On traffic signals that you don't have left turn volumes, if the left turn volumes are not too high, you can operate the signals in such a way that there is no left turn pocket perhaps. Right now, this intersection, for instance, it does not have any left turn pocket. So if there are only a few people making left turns, they just make their left turns during the green ball. Sometimes if the volumes are high and if you have a left turn pocket, for instance, the intersection just to the west of you, Hollenbeck, I believe, you have noticed if you go through that intersection, there is a left turn pocket and there might be also left turn arrows. So the higher when you have left turn volumes, you also give a specific indication to those people so that they can make their turns safely across heavy traffic. So this chart kind of shows the different types of operations. I can come back to this later on if there is any questions. But the decision what type of traffic signal control and what type of left turn phasing is chosen is really based on additional analysis and analysis of the traffic volumes. If you can go back. Next one. This is the same thing. It kind of goes through a duration of whether you want to have, right now the intersection does not have a left turn pocket. And like I said, you can operate the signals in different ways with or without a left turn pocket. Looking at your traffic movement volumes that they just showed, it's on page 13, the rule of thumb for having a left turn pocket at a signalized intersection is normally when you have about 50 or more people that are making a left turn, normally it is a good idea to have a left turn pocket for them. When you reach in the threshold of close to 100 or so, it is really desirable to have a left turn pocket. So as you can see in the turning movement counts in here, quite a number of movements in some of the hours. You have as much as 130 people making a left turn. That is the highest one. 171 making a left turn in the eastbound to northbound direction. So we can go through these, and again, these are options that have to be considered later on. But it appears that really providing left turn pockets, if the intersection was signalized, providing left turn pockets at the intersection would be great, would be a great benefit and all that. We can come back through this again if we wanted to. Next. I want to go back through, this is kind of a lesson 101 of traffic engineering and traffic signal design. I know a lot of you are probably familiar with this. The police department is very familiar with these options. I just want to go through this a little bit just so that we're all on the same page. I have 6 slides, and I'll go through of these, each one 1 minute or 2 minutes on each. Just try to describe your different types of signal operations. My purpose is that unlike a stop sign, which is kind of a, how do I say it? It is inflexible. It is not flexible. Once you put a stop sign, you cannot do anything. Either it is a stop sign or it is not a stop sign. You cannot change the operations at the intersection. Traffic signals, if we use them in a smart way, if the signals are intelligent, we can use them to our benefit so that we can operate them in different ways to achieve the results that we want. So I'll go through some of these in a minute. The very basic type of a signal timing, this is how the signals used to design 56 years ago. They call them a fixed time signal. What it means is the signal is really not intelligent. It doesn't know exactly how much traffic is coming through each street. So what we do, what the traffic engineers used to do, we would collect some traffic counts. Let's assume that we collected some traffic counts and we find out that normally during the day 60% of the traffic is going east-west and 40% going north-south. So we would design the signal so that just all day long, day and night, it will provide about 60% of the green time on the east-west and 40% in the north-south. The bad thing or the disadvantage of this is that, like I said, even though there are hours that there's no traffic on the side of the street, the signal still comes to red. And sometimes people, for instance, in this case, people may come to a stop sign or to a signal on the east-west corridor, and there's nobody at all on the side of the street. And they look through their window and they notice there's nobody on the side of the street. They say, well, why am I stopping in here? So the signal is not intelligent. Next one. The next higher ratio of this is what is called a semi-actuated signal. This is, you can call this a semi-smart signal. So a lot of cities, they do this, they put loops. You probably have noticed if you go on the street, there are some circles right before the stop line or before the crosswalk. There are some circles on the roadway. These are some wires in the pavement. The wires, the signal loops, the way it works, when a piece of metal, which is your car, goes on that loop in the pavement, it creates a magnetic field, and that magnetic field sends a message to the traffic signal controller at the corner that there's a car in here. So in this case, some cities still operate, and there's nothing wrong with this. Some cities operate this if the minor street, in this case the north-south street, if it is a very minor road, they basically provide a green time on the east-west street, and only time that the signal comes to red is when somebody pulls on those loops and say, hey, I'm here, I need to make a left, or I need to go across, so the signal turns red and those people get out. This is not applicable in here because the north-south street in here, Citrus, is almost as much traffic as Cameron, so this doesn't really apply to our case. Next one. This one is the fully actuated signal. You can call this is the smartest signal. Now this one, rather than engineers designing beforehand how much green should be allocated to east-west and how much should it be to north-south, the controller is intelligent, or will be intelligent enough because of all the loops that are in all the approaches. The controller can decide, depending on cycle to cycle, minute by minute, can decide if 60% of the traffic is on the east-west, it would allocate 60% green time to that. If during heavy hours it becomes 70%, it would allocate 70% green time. So the signal, this kind of reduces the congestion and makes the traffic smoothly go through the intersection much better than before. These are the basic elements of how the signals are designed. Next one. Now, after signals are designed, this is one I want to go through. Obviously, the very first, which is not on the screen, the first type of signal operation is where you design it and it operates green, yellow, red, and all that. That's a normal operation of a signal. But there are other ways to operate a signal. Not all of these are applicable to our location, but I just want to go through them. This is an operation that the signal on the main street stays at a flashing yellow, and the side streets, they stay on flashing red. Some agencies do this if the minor street, again, is very, very low volume, so the traffic, the signal basically on the major street can go through all the time, and the people on the side street, they almost have like a stop sign, and when they get a gap, they make a left turn in here. Again, this one will not be applicable to here because there's too much traffic on the side street on Citrus Avenue. They will never be able to make their left turn if we did this. But this is one way of operating. Next one. Next one is that you could have the signal flash red. You could put a signal in there, but you could flash it all red. This, of course, wouldn't make sense to operate this 24 hours a day because a traffic signal to install it here is going to cost $300,000, $400,000. So you might say, if this is the same, basically this will be like the same as a stop sign. Yes, it would be more visible. People can see the red lights from 300 feet, 400 feet away. But it is really not prudent to spend $300,000, $400,000 on a signal and have it operate exactly like a stop sign.
Who installs the signal?
Who installs it?
Yeah.
Well, once the council decides that they want to install a signal, then the engineers, they have to design it.
No, I
Then
understand all that, but who gets the contract?
a private contractor that the city council authorizes that contract to be able.
Transtech possibly?
No, a contractor,
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's through competitive bidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have the time for answer questions.
Yeah, I'll
Get
just
through
address
this
that
and then
anyway.
we'll have it, yeah.
The cities are required to abide by a public contracting law. So they design it, and then the engineers do an estimate that, okay, this signal is probably going to cost $300,000. They advertise it. Any contractor, construction company can apply for it, and then the low bid, whoever has the low bid, as long as they qualify and they meet all the requirements, the low bid, the council is authorized, or they will, because of the contract law, the council has to give it to the low bid contractor. So it is a fair game, so whoever gets the low bid of it. So that's to answer your question. Now I lost my train of my thought, but I was saying that the flashing red basically works like a stop sign, but the only way that would work is if we operate the signal during the peak hours when there is enough traffic on all approaches. We would operate this as a regular intersection, regular traffic signal, green, yellow, and red. And perhaps during the non-peak hours or at night, 8 o'clock at night or 12 o'clock midnight or 2 o'clock in the morning, if there's not as much traffic, then you could have it like this. That way, you kind of, you satisfy. I know this is a divided issue between the communities. Some people want a signal, some people don't want a signal. This one, it kind of maybe satisfies both kind of ideas and all that. During the day, the people who are really frustrated with the congestion and all that, the signal during the peak hours, during the rush hours, tries to get the people, move through the intersection as soon as possible. But during the very light hours, the signal will operate almost like a stop sign, and everybody has to come to stop. Finally, there is a different version of this that you could also have the signals. This is a very technical engineering term. It is called rest in red. What it means is that we could operate the signal in such a way that the signal will always rest in red in all approaches unless somebody pulls to the stop sign, to the stop line. Unless somebody either from Citrus or from Cameron, they come to the crosswalk, they near the crosswalk, those loops that are in the pavement, they get detected and they know that there's a car there. So obviously during the peak hours, the signal will operate like a regular signal. It will let people to go through either on Cameron or on Citrus. But again, at night, at 8 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, or 2 o'clock in the morning, the signal will be red in all directions. Now, like I said, there's a lot of intelligence. Once we put all the hardware and all the loops and everything in there, there's a lot of intelligence in the signal controller and how we can time the signal. We can time the signal in such a way that, once the car, or let's say there's 2 or 3 cars on Cameron that are right at the stop bar. After those 2 or 3 cars pass, we can time it in such a way that if there is a car only 50 feet away, we can let the other car go through too. It's only 50 feet away. But if we know that the next car is 200 feet away or 300 feet away, we will make the signal go to red. So those are the timing adjustments that the engineers have the flexibility to time those signals in such a way to meet our needs and the residents' needs and all that. So again, this is one operation that perhaps could be a compromise that can be done for people, to satisfy both people who are either against or for the signal. I think it may achieve some of the results. That's kind of what I have. I don't know what is after this. Probably not much, is it? Okay. I'll be here once the other people speak and all that. If there's any other questions, I'll be happy to answer about the traffic signals. Okay? Sure.
Now we'll move to the speaker cards, and that if you can, when we call your name, just come to the podium, and then our filmer will film, and you'll be on.
You may want to say followed by.
Yes, okay. And then also, we ask you that you also fill out your community comment sheet so that we have a record as well as what you wanted to say.
Will there be a question opportunity after?
Yeah, we'll have some question and answers. This way, we kind of hear what everyone has to say, and then, like if you have signal questions, Bauman's here, you have safety, PD is here, so we have various, forms that we can field your questions if we're able to, okay? All right, the first one I have is Lance Velk. I'm sorry if I butchered your last name. Followed by Shannon. Volk, maybe, I guess. Followed by Shannon.
I live on Cameron. I've been there for over 40 years. Seen a lot of accidents. Have not seen a fatality there. Been fatalities up at the high school. Been a fatality at Hollenbeck. When people run a stop sign, they're not paying attention. When people run red lights, a lot of times it's because I want to get there before it turns red. So they have to speed up to do this. Now we're looking at a fatality. I've never seen anybody try to beat a stop sign. Lights, yes. Where I live, can we go to a picture that we just had? Okay, I live the right corner, the top, yes. The second house back with the trees, okay? If you notice, there's an alley behind there, okay? Nobody seems to know it's there. Neither do the people driving their cars. So what happens there is you pull out to turn right. What happens? Cars on that corner making a right turn onto Citrus slide through, they don't even stop. Whether it's a stop sign or a stop light. And there's a bus stop right there. You cannot see around it. By the time I get ready to pull out, there's a car going to about run into me now. Okay? We got to slow, and then another thing is that we get so many cars backed up, they go to Charlinda, the street behind, and they speed through there. And they also come through that alley. I've had my trash cans replaced a number of times because they hit your trash can. And if you're trying to get out, they're pissed off at you because you live here and you're taking too long to let them through because they're trying to go around the traffic, all right? So, and then if you put a light in, before they were talking about putting the curb red from that corner back to my house, almost past it. I have no access to my house. And if you're parked right there, I double dog dare you to stand next to your car when those cars are flying past you. Right at that point right there, they're doing at least 40. And they're this far away from it. And a lot of the accidents, and most of them for cell phones. People looking on their cell phones, they drift over. We've hit 2 cars damaged from the back end by people. They're not admitting it. I seen one roll across the front of my street last year. So you got to slow the speed. This speed is not working real well. You know, it's too fast. You see the white line on the outside of the house toward the street. If I park my F-150 truck, it's right on the line. They will take your mirror off your car. So you got to slow it down. And then the street behind it, Charlinda, they need speed bumps. They got cars lined up trying to get through there. I take it that was for me.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much.
How'd I do?
I'm trying to write down.
That's it. The light.
Thank you.
Yeah, and also fill out your little sheet like this. I tried to take notes, but if this is in your writing, it's much better, because we'll just scan it in and your comments are there.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you so
We'll
much.
collect them all at the end, or if you'd like to bring them up.
Yeah.
When you come and speak, we can take those as well.
Shannon?
Okay, the next one is Shannon, I'm sorry, is that?
Shannon Wolf.
Okay, thank you. Followed by John Snut?
So I have a few questions. First, do we know when the city council meeting is going to be it makes a decision on this?
It may be, realistically, the earliest would be March, because they have a lead time of getting staff reports in.
Okay,
So,
all right. How do we get the information for the collisions at intersections? Because you mentioned that you go to the state,
Yeah.
you had to wait for it. How do citizens go about getting that information?
you could request it, it's called SWITRS, SWITRS, and it's on CHP website.
We request it, what do you mean by requesting it? Like
They have
an
a
email?
website that says, it asks you what month, what years you want.
Okay,
You
because,
just type it in for West Covina.
all right, because you have us at a disadvantage here. I mean, you have statistics that you can cherry pick, but we don't have statistics on the adjacent intersections, like Hollenbeck and Citrus, or Branca and Citrus. They both have lights, but we don't have information on accidents or fatalities on those. We don't have actual statistics. You have statistics. So I'd like to know what that is in comparison to, because we can assume that if there's more fatalities, and we know there are some fatalities at both those intersections, at least 1 or 2. So we don't have stats to compare what we're looking at for the future of a light on Citrus and Cameron. Because that's what we're going to be looking at. Right now, it appears that your only concern seems to be about volume, traffic volume. We're concerned about death, severe injuries. We're concerned about that. Right now, people have a choice whether or not to travel up and down Cameron. They're slowed down because of the stop sign. They have a choice not to take that route. Right? People who are dying do not have a choice in that matter. All right, so what's the criteria that you use to determine whether or not a light has a negative effect? So right now, you're looking at the positive effect of a light of alleviating traffic. But what criteria would you use to determine whether or not a light has a negative effect? What would it be?
I think at the end we'll answer that, because Plowman will come back up and we can ask.
Okay.
I'm keeping my notes
Fair
here.
enough. Fair enough. That's primarily it, because it appears like, we're asking questions, but it really is going to come down to, us convincing the council whether or not we want a light or not. So that's why I'm just asking questions here, because it doesn't really much matter apparently, like what I say to you guys. You're just gonna take note of it, but, so, thank you very much.
And then John,
Followed
followed by Audrey Miller.
I'll take questions for mom and dad.
Okay, yeah.
You know what, I'm looking at that. You see all the swimming pools? If you guys put together like a pool tax, and then you could use that to supplement the money you're spending on all this, maybe we can do something about it, because this, today, all I've heard is what we heard the other times. And you used up most of the time and then gave us 3 minutes. And there's nothing new here today. We've all been to the city council meeting last time. And by the way, we walked in the door and people were for the light. And when we left, it was unanimous against the light. So the only thing that's going to slow traffic down, and by the way, you see the 4 red lights? We got that now. That's a 4-way stop. You call it anything you want, it's a 4-way stop. A lot of the options were a 4-way stop. So that's a no change, basically. If people won't stop for a stop sign, they're not going to stop for a red light, particularly turning right. And the bulk of the traffic going through there, particularly rush hour, are right turns off of Citrus. And if you put a no right turn sign, Citrus will be backed up all the way to Glendora. That's absolutely a fact. So that's not an option. Some things I've seen in other cities. I have another house in Lake Havasu. We go there all the time. They have a middle school that has a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. So they park an empty police car there for that period of time, along with some other stuff. I say that's cost neutral because you probably have an empty police car 24/7 every single day. Either it's broke down or it's going to get preventative maintenance or whatever, but they're sitting. So that'd be a freebie. The other thing is, though, is the real issue is speed. I've heard nothing about doing anything about speed. The enforcement here, I'd be embarrassed if I looked up there and I saw the average speed is 5 miles an hour over the speed limit. I drive 35 down Citrus, so that means somebody's going 65 in order for that to average to be 50. And if it's averaging 50, the average car is 50, but there's a lot of people going 60 and 70, particularly in the evening times through there. So, I mean, if you're not going to do anything about it now, nothing's going to change for this signal. And let me tell you, there's zero traffic enforcement on the stop signs. And you might be able to pull up some work orders and tell me one day when someone was there for 2 hours. But there's 30 days in a month. There's 365 days in a year where we got to live there. And when I moved to West Covina, there was enforcement where I complained. I mean, I hated it because I was worried about me getting a ticket. Now there's no concern whatsoever. And I know there's budget problems. And if you tell me you can't put an officer there, I agree with you. You can't. But the option of doing nothing, is unacceptable. Okay? And that's not a solution. And I guarantee you that every one of us is going to be there for the council meeting. Because we don't want that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, but I do love the little pen.
All right, Audrey Miller, followed by Dan Miller.
I have a question about the collision data. You have, for 2023, you only list 3 accidents. And that only goes from February to May. Is there going to be more data?
Well, that is from January to November.
Oh.
It's just those were the dates of the actual collision.
Oh, I see.
Now,
There may
Okay.
have been other collisions that occurred there, but that's the 3 that were
The
reported.
yeah.
Yes.
Which was kind of my next point. We just had, since last Thursday, there was an accident there, and then again on Sunday, this past Sunday. And I think a lot of the accidents that happen there might be, the fender bender type that don't get reported. The one that happened on Sunday morning, our neighbor just happened to set out on a walk, and she came upon that accident. There were no other cars in the area at all. It was just these two cars in the middle of the road. So somehow, they happened to hit each other, and it's like, how does that happen when there's not even anybody else on the road? But I think there's a lot of things like that happen. And if you're there during peak times, it's very scary to try to cross that intersection going in any direction. My husband and my son have almost been hit a couple of times. People, I don't think it, makes a difference. I get what the other people are saying about, make people speed and they take side streets to, circumvent the traffic. That's still going to happen either way, but I still think a signal would improve the safety because of the way it will control the traffic a little bit better. People in general, they're impatient, they're rude, they're on their phones. There's just not a lot of consideration anymore. So that's going to happen and continue to happen regardless of what happens at that intersection. But I just feel that a signal would make it safer than just stop signs, because at least at a signal, you know when it's your turn to go. The problem now seems to be that there's so much traffic and no one seems to know when it's their turn. And that's even harder when, you're going left, right, and going straight. Nobody seems to know whose turn it is. And so you're constantly having these accidents that happen. And like I said, we just had two in the less than a week that happened. And it seems like we're constantly hearing more and more,
Screeching.
Sirens going all the time, people speeding on Cameron. Hopefully you come to a signal, if there's traffic, you're going to have to stop. Right now, they just, they don't pay attention and they just keep going. So I'm in favor of signal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Dan Miller, followed by Robert Lauren.
I live with her, so I'm in favor of the signal too. So, my question is, has anybody on the traffic commission actually watched that intersection from 4:30 to 6 for, say, a half an hour? To see if there's chaos, whose turn is, because you brought it up. Nobody knows whose turn it is. And that's one thing to where I've seen incidences where people have gotten out of their cars and confronted people in the intersection. And pretty soon, we're going to have a bigger problem. But I have a question for Officer Adam. Yes. Yeah. The person that was driving in the sun that made a left turn and hit a pedestrian, do you feel a traffic signal with a left turn arrow would have made a difference on that?
Possibly, you can.
Okay. And I have another question. I walk my dog every day.
Yeah, I think I've seen you before.
You probably have. Little hound dog, I walk every day. When I cross that intersection, because I like to go down to South Hills High School, I have to make eye contact with 6 different drivers to cross. The 2 on the north and south of Citrus, to make sure they see me. The one that's making a right turn heading westbound, and the one that's making a left turn heading eastbound. So I make that eye contact, and then I know it's safe to go. Would it be safer for me to keep doing that, or is it easier to push a button and have a walk sign?
Probably both in combination.
I would still make eye contact, but does a walk sign make a little bit of a difference?
It depends. I mean, if people are going to honor that walk sign, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't have a problem at Hollenbeck with it, and I cross in both directions there when I go in that direction. And I feel a whole lot safer And I know other people do too, because I talk to the other people that walk their dogs and walk and have kids. That walk sign makes a little bit of a difference. And I feel that the drivers actually see that. Now, I know one of the comments is people making those right turns. I've seen that very many times, you know. That's a little bit scary. But I have a feeling that when they have a red light, that might slow them down just a little bit. Especially when they see the walk sign appear and they know somebody's in that, close to that intersection. So, and do you have any questions for me? Because feel free to, if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Nothing? We're good?
Questions?
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you so much. Robert Lawrence, followed by Dr. Peter Davis.
Good evening. I'm one of the newer residents. I'm Robert. I live on the corner of Coral Tree and Cameron, right where they put the speed strips down. The strips, they attach them to the light pole. So I'm right on that corner house. I just came in 2020, remodeled my full home, and beautiful neighborhood. I love it. I'm in agreement with most people here that the main issue is speed here on Cameron. Since I've been here in 2020, I've been emailing the city council, I've been emailing everybody, to which I've been quite frustrated because the response has been horrible. I've even given them suggestions between between Citrus and Hollenbeck, maybe put a water drainage dip, speed bumps like other people have said, multiple other stop signs. And the best they gave me is we're going to put a portable radar machine that the police department's going to provide. They put that up for 2 days on the east side of Citrus, probably on the right side of your map right there. It was up for like 2 days, and that was probably in 2021. I constantly complain, but I will tell you I am for the light. I believe it would be more controlled. If there was a light there, they can put no turn on red to prevent the right turns that people are concerned about. I believe in the pedestrian sign that a light would provide. I believe the light would make it more controlled. If the other measures would have been met that I've been asking for since I moved in 2020, I don't think we would be here today. I don't think we would have these issues, whether a light's necessary or not. The stop sign would probably be sufficient. However, because those other issues on Cameron have not been met, I believe a light signal would be more efficient for people, especially the numbers are showing that Cameron's a main thoroughfare. The numbers are showing that. And however the data was extracted, the numbers are there. So because of that, again, I believe a light would make it more controlled. That you could put a do not turn on red for that right turn issue that people may have. But however, I think the bigger issue is the speed. It's not going to stop the speed, and I agree with most people on that. And that needs to be addressed. Both sides of Citrus, between the high school in Citrus and between where I live in Hollenbeck. I don't know how much it would cost to do some of these other things, but I mean, if you had a water runoff for rain halfway between each light signal, that's going to make people slow down because there's a dip. I mean, speed bumps may not work because it's a main thoroughfare, but I do believe that's something else. I even asked them to put a stop sign on my corner, a four-way stop. I'm on Coral Tree and Cameron. You know, I've asked for so many things, but we see how this is working. So again, I'm in favor for the light. I believe it just would be more controlled. I walk every morning. You'll see me out there between 6:30 and 7. I do about a 3-mile loop around the whole area, and I see what's happening on that corner. I've almost been hit myself. Anyway.
Try turning it off and on again.
Okay, Dr. Peter Davis, followed by,
There we go.
is it Brian Roberts?
Byron.
Byron, okay,
Byron.
sorry.
Okay, my house, this worked when I was, oh, okay. Is it working now? Okay, well, my house is the second house yeah, right where you're pointing, but it's the first driveway. If someone's coming down Citrus with a green light, they won't stop at all. They'll just turn right, and when I'm pulling out of my driveway, which is, the entrance is more narrow than I'd like, and I can't get approval to get it wider. But if you do put in a traffic light, particularly if you narrow the streets with the left-hand pocket, I won't survive. There is no question. I cannot, there are cars there every minute or so. They can't see me until they turn. There's a big bush in the corner. And when they turn, they can't stop if they haven't stopped before the stop sign. If it's a green light, they just go. I do it. We all do it. We turn the corner without stopping. By the time they even realize there's a car pulling out, I've had it. My neighbor, who's the second driveway, backs out. He has to. He has a circular driveway, and they have several cars in it. He backs out, and even now, with the stop sign, he has a lot of trouble. He has to wait and wait. With the traffic light, at night, well, anytime when it's rushing, people race. They try to make the traffic light now that you put in at Barranca. They race down, and they go try and get all the lights. And if it's yellow, they're still going to go fast. I used to cross the street there and go down to the South Hills High School, as someone else said they were doing with their dog, but I'm afraid to now. And as far as stopping it, that's making a right turn from Cameron onto Citrus, I see police cars that don't stop. They slow down at least, but they don't stop. Not all of them, but I have seen it several times. And I walk my dog, I stay on the, I go west on Cameron from my driveway, and then I turn on to Citrus and go up to the country club because there are no streets that I have to cross. And I go, at that intersection every single day, plus the times when I'm driving. But I don't know what I'm going to do if I can't drive because I can't get out of my driveway. Also noise. No one's mentioned
Sorry.
that.
Sorry.
Noise is terrible.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Byron, and then the last one is Jose Padilla. Okay, sorry.
Okay, my name is Byron Roberts. I live on Chorlinda at Citrus. If you actually put in a traffic light there at that intersection, you're going to increase more traffic load on Chorlinda. People will go eastbound on Cameron, they would turn south on Chorlinda, which turns actually eastbound. Westbound, I'm sorry. As it's going westbound, they do that to alleviate going through that stop sign. If you put a traffic light there, it's going to increase that traffic even more. People go by there so quick that you can see the centrifugal force of their vehicles shifting as they go around the curve, just to beat that intersection. Signals doesn't mean that someone will stop. It just means that they should stop. They have a choice. If they take a driving test, they know when and when not to make a left turn, or they know their responsibilities when they come up to a stop sign. My question would be, and I don't know if you have the answers because I haven't heard this, with the amount of volume that you say you have there, and with the A's and not necessarily K's that you're having at that intersection, how much education and enforcement do we have on in that area? I know we should have a lot of enforcement on Citrus because I can hear the cars as they speed down the street. I know we should have more enforcement on Cameron. So I'm curious, when you have 10,000 cars going through there on any specific day, how many citations do we have for violators on that street, Cameron, as well as Citrus? Because with that amount of volume, with the amount of people that are having accidents, 3 in the last year or so, we should have some enforcement to match that amount of violators. So this is not really a police problem only, it's a community issue too, because a lot of people that are speeding through there live in that community. Some are just passing through to avoid freeway traffic or other traffic, but it's also a community issue. So we have to, I'm against a signal. I believe that we should have other means, speed bumps. I think maybe we should have light up the pedestrian crosswalks so that when a pedestrian comes to the crosswalk, they can light it up, and that would alert the driver that someone's crossing on a crosswalk. But I think the speed bumps would help. And any person that does enforcement or responds to medical emergencies, fire, police, if you know there's speed bumps in the area, you know how to defeat them, and you would know how to get around them as necessary. But we need some kind of help. It's just not because you put a traffic light there, you're going to stop people from running stop signs, the traffic light. It's a choice. I do agree that when people see a yellow light goes from green to yellow, they do speed up. So that's going to be an issue. Again, I'm against it, and whatever we can, any information I can get about traffic enforcement would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Jose Padilla. Oh, we have more, okay. Followed by Mario Sobolvaro.
Hi, my name is Jose Padilla. I live in the house in the corner on Cameron and Citrus, right there. No, no, that one, no, that one right there. I have a handicapped son, and if you guys decide to put a light, which I'm against it, you're just gonna put a strip of red right on my door. That's why my son gets picked up every morning. If you guys do that, where am I gonna take my son? You know, and speed is because people that go through that, they're not from there. They're from outsiders. They only use that that street or camera because there's no lights. There's just straight. That's why they speed. They don't have consideration against the people that live there. There's a lot of they walk there, and I see that people that just in their phones, they're not paying attention. They're always fighting. Like the other day, we had an accident. This lady hit this young man, and they had to take him to jail because they're just yelling and screaming, and we shouldn't have that. We should have, bump speeds or stop during, I don't know, but I'm against, and especially because I have a son that is handicapped. Where are they gonna pick him up? South Hills High School, Cameron Park, But you know what? We need to do something about it. Like this, I put some light that you push and then you start blinking, and people can go by. But most of the time, it's a lot of speeding, a lot of noises. It's bad. And I hope you guys can do something about it for us, because we do need it. Thank you.
Then we have Mario, and that looks like our last speaker. Does anyone else? Oh, okay, we have one more after that. 1 second. All right, thank you.
From the certain view going east on Cameron, just around Magnolia. I live in the area. I traverse this to take my dogs out to go walk around Cortez Park. I'm going to defer the for and against to the people that are in the immediate area, but there are some concerns that I have that I don't feel have been addressed. Some of them are what I would consider natural obstacles. We could get a street view of that. Magnolia and Cameron, looking eastbound on Cameron. Around that view, you'll see that the stop sign per the view is only about a foot off of the ground because of a gradient. And somebody here, I think, brought that up at one point. And I drive a large Jeep, and even with that, the stop sign is out of view coming up to that gradient there. So I'm just curious if that is being taken into consideration. If there was a traffic signal there, I anticipate somebody traveling south on Citrus, waiting at a yellow to make a left turn. Light turns green here, somebody coming quickly is not going to see that person right there, just physically, or visibly, they will be obstructed. Other natural obstacle I see is that Cameron follows the path of the sun for most of the year. So coming, would it be west on Cameron, I foresee issues with people on Citrus traveling north, trying to make a right onto Cameron, even though there's a green light there, unless you have a no right turn on red or something like that. Potential issues there. Adding green lights to Cameron, one of the things I brought up were corner barriers. Every person that lives on that corner house is now going to be susceptible to cars traveling at speeds to 40, 45, 50 miles an hour, potentially going into their corner, if an accident or something occurs. I live closer to Valinda Cameron, happens all the time there. I mean, that poor fence gets, family there, I think they just left the fence down at this time. It just gets hit all the time. Another point would be, I think when we were at the Cortez Park meeting, just bringing up the option, because I know a lot of people here are concerned about exiting from their driveway. If the option, I think they have this on Hollenbeck, where there's a kind of like a barrier guide, not allowing, I guess, for that right turn traffic to go immediately onto the, I guess, the slow lane, something like that. I've seen them with actual physical, like plastic poles with bumps or just kind of striped out. Just want to get comment on that. And lastly, I'm a motorcycle person and I get stuck on Azusa and Cameron all the time, so I always ask about motorcycle registration. Some bikes will register on the strips, others don't. So I hate getting stuck on those lights.
Yes, so I live on Citrus and Cameron, right before the stop sign. So as my neighbor had mentioned, this is our 6th meeting talking about the same issue, that intersection, and we haven't heard anything new. All we ever hear is about vehicle volume. We have been asking for traffic calming measures. We have been asking for reduction of speed. Again, through each meeting, we always request traffic calming measures. So we're asking, and I'm asking again, why haven't any other items been considered, like traffic, speed humps, speed bumps, something to actually physically make a change on the street to reduce traffic? Not only our safety, but pedestrian safety. My daughter comes from South Hills High School, and every single day, there's always an issue because people are speeding through Cameron, speeding through Citrus, and not stopping. So I'm asking, how would a street light protect our safety? How would that improve safety? How would that reduce speed? Does it reduce speed? Is there anything you could provide us showing that a traffic signal will reduce speed and improve safety, other than making volume congestion move faster? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it for our comment cards. I will address a couple of items that people had on speeding, and that you have to remember that Cameron is a minor arterial. It has a 45 mile per hour speed. Speed bumps are only used on residential streets with speed limits of 25 miles per hour. So if we put speed bumps on Cameron, people would just be flying into your yard. So what is next step, I know you're tired of hearing that, is Cameron Avenue. There are several things that we can consider. There's road diet to narrow the lanes further. There is options on taking an amendment to the citywide speed survey. Speed limits are set by law, so we can't arbitrarily change any speed limit. that's in the city. It has to go through a process, and then it's adopted by the city. In 2017, a citywide speed survey was done, and based on that survey, Cameron was posted at 45. So the only option we have for that is if additional traffic calming devices are put on Cameron, we can go back and we can redo and take a relook at the posted speed limit and see if it would qualify for lower speed limit. So that's the only way we can reduce the speed limit on Cameron. We can't just arbitrarily say, hey, we need a 25 or a 30. It's by law. It has certain guidelines set by the CVC, California Vehicle Code. So, and then it has to go through a whole process that the city council adopts. So they have some new speed limit changes that are coming in 2024. So this makes it so we can look at some more of our streets, not only Cameron, but some of the other major arterials that are having issues with speeding, because it is what we've heard, and we've tried. We start with the side stripes, the radar speed feedback signs, putting an always stop. We don't use those for speeding, because you're going to see what's going to happen as some of the other streets we get the calls for speeding, and then we get the calls that they're not stopping at the stop sign. Well, that's because unwarranted stop signs are put in. And it has to meet, unfortunately, you don't want to hear that, but it has to meet certain warrants to have an always stop. Or it just goes through. Yes?
Can I say one thing? Because I feel like the stop sign saves us from these people driving super fast, because if you come down Grand and you're coming towards South Hills, you know, it's really curvy and it's like 45. And I can't believe people pass me all the time. I'm just like, oh my God, if the trash cans are out, you have to be really careful when you're going around that curve, and they're just like speeding down to South Hills High School. So I just feel like if there was another light where we live on the corner, that is just gonna open up, everybody's gonna be down Cameron Avenue, everyone.
But then-
no one will go down any of the other streets.
Right. But there again,
You know?
we can't just place stop signs, especially on major
It was
streets.
there already. We didn't just place it there, it was there. It was already there.
Then-
We just put lights on it so people could see it, you know?
And if they don't stop for the stop signs, how can you tell me they're gonna stop for a light?
I mean, there was a
Number one.
drunk driver,
Number two is,
there was a drunk
you have the
driver,
stale yellow effect.
there was a drunk driver on Thursday, and if there wasn't a stop sign, they probably would have went right through the light and killed somebody.
I watched that one.
That's
Yeah.
what
That was a
my
drunk
daughter,
driver.
and that was at the stop sign, they took them in, they were right in front of our house. And they took them in, and if that was a light, somebody could have been killed.
I was there as a witness to it. We're witness, we live there, we're
Right.
witness,
We all live
like
right
every
there,
accident
yeah.
you've talked about, I mean, we're intimate with those, because they wake us up, or we rush out to make sure nobody's been hurt, or offer a cell phone or
So
water.
those are, you know, people, he said, but they're alive that talked about it. If there's a signal, I have to fear for my life, because I live in the corner. And everybody that lives in the corner, that car could go flying if they're going 60 miles an hour and kill one of us.
And they
So,
make U-turns
you know,
on Cameron in the center of the street.
so if there's a light there, if one of us is outside on the sidewalk, or someone's walking their dog at that light, we're gonna be dead.
But
We appreciate all of your comments. I know you want to just, at this point, we're just looking at Citrus and Cameron, and basically, the committee doesn't meet warrants for signalization. If it does, it did, it met 3 warrants. Then, at this point, we forward it to council, and you will have another opportunity, and we will attach all of this information. Because at this point, we're doing the engineering study, and it's based on facts, and then we want to include your input as well, and then council hears all of your input. So,
I have one last question.
Do you want to go through the
Since we're gonna get
ones
to ask
that
questions.
people
And
noted for Bauman, and then go into questions?
At the previous meeting at Court,
yeah, we'll see if there's any that fits with.
it was mentioned several times that the stoplight issue for Cameron and Citrus was kind of dead. Okay, and you folks told us that. So now we're here, a few months later, hearing completely different information. And one of the issues is, I want you to be on my side. And I don't feel that you are on my side if I'm getting false information. I really think part of the intention was to get us to stop coming to these. I mean, why else would you tell
Absolutely
us,
not.
why else would you tell all the people that were dissenting that the issue was pretty much over, when it wasn't? Or we wouldn't be here. You're gonna move forward with a recommendation to the council. So obviously it wasn't dead. And that is disheartening to me, and I feel deceived. And I think the rest of us do. And we were talking about that today during the day. So, you know, I mean, why are we opposing each other? And why aren't you helping us get a safe community? Instead of going with the same old thing that hasn't worked before. And if you don't enforce a signal, you're gonna get exactly the same results as now. The system will produce what the system produces, and there's no changing that. That is a business law, everybody knows it, they teach it in engineering school. If you don't change the outcome on the back end through enforcement, nothing's gonna change on a daily basis. That's a fact.
Just to slow down the cars.
Do we want to go over any signal or other comments, or just?
Yeah, I did have one quick question, comment also. Someone mentioned a more or less like a bay car, a vacant police car. Have we tried that tactic yet?
We have done that in a lot of areas, but a vacant police car, I mean, we don't want people to think that, you know, we're just putting some ruse out there and then there's no action. I mean, there's pros and cons to that. I agree with you. We usually utilize that at shopping malls, stuff like that, to deter theft-related crime or crime that we're experiencing. It's something we could definitely address, but none of our front windows on our police cars are tinted, so I don't know how long it's gonna take for someone to realize, like, oh, I've seen that car there, you know, for the last 10 days. When it gets into enforcement, I know some of you are stressing the fact that we're not out there enough, and I agree with you. We can't be everywhere at once. We try to target strategically. We have 26 schools in our city. So especially when school time picks up, we strategically balance between the different schools. However, this is a very high priority for us, this area. That's why we're here as well. So what we are going to do is we're going to step up enforcement in that area. Now, I can't tell you that it's going to solve all the problems, right? However, I could assure you that we're going to do that. Also, within the last 3 months or so, we picked up enforcement there a lot. More so down towards South Hills High School, but also in that intersection as well. Yeah. We've also had a motorcycle cop on Charlinda as well. So, yes, sir?
Well, just a general question. Haven't been here since the beginning of this, but what initiated this process? Is it the traffic committee place to review various intersections, you know, throughout time, or I have a feeling that this wasn't initiated through the community, through the residents. I feel that it was initiated either through the traffic committee or city council wanted to do a study. I'm just wondering what initiated
This was not initiated by us. We heard from city staff that they wanted to bring it back. So in that respect, then we do our due diligence, we do the counts, we look at the signal warrants, and we bring it back, so.
Yes, because most, I mean, in the summertime, there's not that much traffic. In the, you know, winter breaks or whatever, but it's not all day long where we're, you know, fighting this traffic.
What about
when people
eliminating
get out of
pedestrians?
work and people get out of school time.
We definitely picked up our patrol for the school times, because the big issue that we've been having is actually during their lunch break. You got these 16, 17-year-old kids rushing back to and from school for their lunch, doing 60, 70 miles per hour down Cameron and Barinka. And we issued, I think, a handful of citations last week for that. Yes, sir?
I got a question. Since I live right there around the center of everything.
Yeah.
And I believe that I seen just one motorcycle police, and he probably gave one citation, but it was.
Yeah, we only have, we really only have one or two motorcycle police officers.
From the police officers on the park, I see you guys just passed. I
That's-
never seen you guys do a citation or stop a car.
Oh, well, I can assure you, we are issuing citations. Just because you're not seeing it doesn't mean we're
I
not
live
doing
there,
it.
I don't work.
Mhm.
I'm always
Yeah.
here and I, because I live in the alley.
Mhm.
I see only one police officer vehicle in my driveway, years back. But I believe if you guys give a couple of citations, maybe they'll stop and say, you know what?
Well, well,
we
we do issue citations, I can assure you of that, in that area.
The only time I see you guys is when there's accidents.
Well, a lot of times, our physical presence will deter it as well. Just us driving up and down the street is another tactic that we do
Maybe
use.
you give me a book and I'll give citations to the people that are just
Yeah.
driving in with their loud trucks and cars.
Yeah.
And the only time that's part, when there's one accidents, you guys are there. But you guys pass by and that's it. I don't see you stopping anybody, you know. That's what I see.
Yeah, I completely understand your standpoint. I can see what you're saying you see. I'm out there a lot, personally. I know the officers I supervise are out there a lot. But like, I can assure you that we're gonna do what we can to pick up more patrols, and I know that is gonna help. But I also wanna stress that we have 2 motor officers for our department. So, and our city's almost 20 square miles, so we have to balance, right, our enforcement. Knowing these kind of community events and these outreach, when you go to city council, when you call the police department, it helps us to hear from you so we could put it at a higher priority level. I grew up on the east side of the city. I attended South Hills High School as a kid. I experienced all this. I graduated 2002, so for 21 years ago, right? It's been the same in that intersection, these issues. So all we can do to remedy that as law enforcement is have more of a presence and put our input to whoever we can. So, but we have your back. I just want you to know that we're doing everything we can. Okay? Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm concerned, you know.
Absolutely.
That being said, I know somebody said something about budget and stuff back here, but have you guys done any cost analysis on, I am for the light, but what does the light cost? What does it cost to maintain it? As opposed to maybe hiring another officer, because enforcement is probably gonna be better. Have we done that?
If you're asking at an internal level for the police department, we are in the process of attempting to enhance our traffic bureau, get some more officers, more motor officers. So that is in the works as of right now.
Yeah, I'm just saying, instead of, the other, maybe, and more police presence in the community is better anyway, regardless if it's for traffic control. So it would help these guys, bring another recruit on board. I don't know, have we done that?
We have not.
Yeah.
But the cost analysis is not a whole officer either. It's gonna be 2 hours a day or whatever.
Exactly.
So it'll be a quarter of an officer with benefits compared to 300,000 to 400,000, right? Plus the maintenance of that, plus the restriping, the painting, all that goes with that, and then all the people living there being pissed off. That's another thing too. But the issue is, I really think it's cost justified to put an officer there for this period of time or that period of time. And you know how enforcement works. If you're there every day for a week and then the next week you're only there one day, as long as you're there one day a week after that, it'll work. But if you stop altogether, the bad guys figure that out in about 2 seconds, right? And the other thing is, what I forgot to mention in my presentation, you have the stale yellow factor. I used to investigate accidents for UPS. And our most severe accidents were stale yellow accidents. And you can get accident data all day long, and for everything that you can present to the council, I can bring something else to present the other side of it. And the thing is who brings it. And these guys, no offense, they have a chip in the game. So if you're getting data from consultants that you're paying, that data is going to serve the purpose of buying their services. That's just how it is. I'm sorry, I can bring you data for that too. I mean, we can go data forever, but the thing I was trying to say is that data from NTSB, data from neutral providers are the only ones that are really reliable. Everything else, anything that you paid for is not reliable. I mean, that's the business world, and most business groups have governing bodies that they pay themselves, people from that industry, so they're not reliable at all either. So
And the last thing is, if you want us to be on your side, give us the information you're gonna present ahead of time.
Yes.
I mean, otherwise, we feel deceived. And I understand that you don't want us to be prepared, but we are, and we're gonna be here.
Just
Like
get
a
some
last
new,
minute notice,
some
we
new
have another
signs so
meeting.
people can read.
Yeah,
Not-
and-
You do have a stop sign ahead, but it's so tiny. I didn't never even seen it before until probably just a while back. They're tiny. Or put some more signs on the street, because that's kind of, on Cameron, there's kind of a hill when it comes down to the stop sign. So people really don't even know there's a stop sign until they kind of go over that little hump. So, you know, and maybe
Like the high school.
the line of,
And
Not to
trees.
cut everyone off, but we've been here a while. Now, is there anyone that has signal questions, or that's kind of out the window? Then no sense even discussing that.
I'm not sure who mailed these out, but I do appreciate it because it'll let you know about what time to be here and where. The answer is not just strictly gonna be because the police are there 24 hours, this is gonna stop. I just think that, you know, when the police are present, even myself, and, you know, I have 29 years in law enforcement, when I see a police car behind me, I still will slow down, even though I have an ID and I know what they're doing. I just believe that if we can continue to have that education and people see the car, I don't expect the car to be there 24/7, but if it's there periodically, then people will think that the police are in the area, at least periodically, and it's gonna help. Whatever we can do to get it to slow down and then to make people stop, that will help. But it's just the education, the enforcement and the education will go a long way. And when you hit in your pocketbook or when your insurance is going up, people will stop. Anything we can discourage them from making that a common thoroughfare where people are driving through that area is gonna help.
Thank you all for coming. We're gonna leave it at that. Please fill out your comment sheets and turn them in at the door or up here on the way. Yes?
I just want to say one thing. He's talking about, he got something in the mail. Is there any way to increase the radius of these notices going out?
Yeah.
Because literally, my neighbor, we're on the same street, but I'm on one side and they're on the other. They got the notices.
And short notice too.
I didn't get one.
A lot of people ain't got it.
Is there any way to make it within,
Yeah, if you
a
can-
half a mile? Or?
I know you've emailed us. If you can
Yeah.
email that suggestion so that we can pass that along to the
Okay.
city who makes those decisions, then
Yeah.
we can widen it. And then make sure on here you've given us your email so we can let you know the next steps if we find out anything, so.
Yeah, and we should,
might get more feedback and better feedback because it's always the same people, the
well,
same.
because we're the ones that are affected.
I know we're the most affected, but there might be other people nearby in the same community that live on Cameron or off of Cameron that would like to be involved. They're just not even aware of it. So.
I do
yeah,
have one more
I'll email
question.
that.
Why haven't we received any other type of suggestion other than a street light?
As in Cameron itself?
Cameron and Citrus,
Yeah, so
for
that one,
intersection?
I said, we're going to have that at separate. It's a bigger issue. The city does have funding. They got a grant for looking at traffic calming on Cameron. So in that respect, then we have to look at that and then we'll present some options there. That's when we look at more of changing the streetscape, doing, you know, obviously we've heard speeding is the main issue, so then.
So when will that
we're-
happen, so we can get an idea?
Yeah, probably the next couple months, because now we have the holidays and everything. We have to collect new data and then look at our options. And then we'll bring it to the residents and see what you guys would support, you know?
Streetscape, it's good for property values.
Yeah.
I'm big on that.
You know, make it pretty, you want, you know, different things, so, at this point, okay?
Okay.
All right.
All right, thank you so much.